And we're live. Hey, everyone. Welcome to Whiskey Charlie, the War Game Chat, a live show every month on YouTube. I'm Mo from Mo's Game Table, and joining me tonight are my co-hosts, everyone's favorite Gimp with the Limp, the GimpyGamer, Nate Rogers.
Nice to see you all again.
And Dan the Man Pancaldi from No Enemies Here, Wargaming News.
Don't eat these mushrooms. They'll kill you.
Tonight we have a very special guest, Tom Russell, game designer and one of the principals of Hollandspiele. Dinosaurs, everybody.
Dinosaurs, everybody.
Dinosaurs.
So how's everybody doing?
Going stir crazy.
Really? That bad, huh?
Yeah, it's getting there.
So
I haven't
what is
shot
it?
anyone yet.
Stuck in the house? Is that what it is?
Just the kids. I mean, come on. I got 3 under 5, and they're going a little crazy. We haven't got them out of the house very much recently. We try to take them, walks around the neighborhood, but that only does, so much good. And plus the social distancing thing now with the neighbors, and everybody's like friendly from a distance, but if you're walking along and you pass like another family, they do that thing where they like jerk their kids away from you, but they're giving you that like fake hi, like, hi, nice to see you, stay the fuck away from me.
When we were kids, everybody was worried about the cooties. Now it's the COVIDs. So, it's a lot more serious, obviously. But, it's just one of those things. And everybody's stuck at home. What about you, Tom? How you been?
I've been okay. I mean, we're stuck at home, but that's how we operate anyway. Ever since I went full time with Hollandspiele, that was what, 3 years ago, Mary? Yeah, three years ago. Just been working from home with Mary, so being home, cooped up all day is kind of our standard operating procedure.
Yeah. Well, it's good. That's good though. It's tough. I know a lot of people are going a little stir crazy here, especially people that are out of work and they're home every day. I've been fortunate to, I'm working every day, and this weekend was great to have the weekend because it was pretty much like the first weekend in 3 weeks that we had time off, so it was nice to get that break because it's just been crazy. But I know a lot of people have gone through similar things or adjusting and working at home. Some are not working at home, but all we can do is make the best of it, and try to enjoy the family time and things like that.
Well, there's definitely going to be a lot of divorces in the next.
There's going to be a lot of
few months,
a lot of births babies. And a lot of babies and a lot of divorces. That's always the case.
We're working on that one. She wants number 4, so.
Yeah.
Really?
Go for it, Nate. Start an orchestra.
Yeah. I finally told her she could have number 4 because she always gets what she wants. She's the wife. This way you get your own fire team going. Yeah. I told her number 3 though. That one's mine. I've called dibs. It's the only baby out of the ones that we've had so far that's actually liked me. The other 2, they would crawl away. They cry if I held them until they were 6 months old. This one has actually picked me over her, and I think it's hurt her feelings a little bit. She was like, "No, the baby doesn't prefer you." And I was like, "Okay." Damn, Lenovo keeps popping up a little announcement. So we did a little experiment the other day, and she's like, "Okay, I'm gonna set the baby down, and we're both gonna back up 10 feet, and we're gonna see who she crawls to." And we both sit there and we're like, "Yo, come here, baby girl." And she looks at mommy, and then she looks over at me, and she just takes off like a bullet straight up to me and does the, dad, pick me up thing. Wifey just looks at me. She's like, "I hate you."
Well, one thing I wanted to bring up is we have Tom from Hollandspiele on, and if you guys are not already aware of it, there's the Mary and Tom show on the podcast. So you should go out there and subscribe to it if you haven't already. It's a fantastic show. You get to get updates on all the current affairs at Hollandspiele, as well as a look inside the lives of Mary and Tom, and they give you a lot of interesting chat. That's for sure. And next week is your 100th episode. Congratulations on 100 episodes, Tom.
Thank you. Yeah.
I don't want to interrupt, but nobody asked me how I was doing.
We did ask you before. You didn't answer. All right, you missed out. As we were saying. So, Dad, how you been, man?
Forget it. I don't want to answer. Go on. Speak to Tom.
Come on. Answer.
I'm doing okay.
You doing all right?
Yeah.
Is that why you got mushrooms behind you? Are those healthy mushrooms?
Yes, mushrooms always help the situation.
Are those safe mushrooms, though?
It depends how you dose it. If you microdose it, yeah.
Dose and mushrooms. I was thinking eating, not dosing.
Not these.
So how's it been up there in Canada, though? Up by you?
Nah, it's like we're on lockdown just like you guys, man.
Yeah.
You know, we're not letting anybody in. We're not letting anybody out.
Yeah. And able to get out there to the mushrooms and the farm, huh?
I don't want to say anything because I'm not allowed out of my neighborhood.
Oh, they got
Yeah.
the apple monitor back on you again.
I'm not allowed out of the neighborhood. But I mean, where I go, it's private farms, and
okay.
It's just the next county type or the next neighborhood. And if I get nailed, I gotta pull I'm going to work for food because food is an essential service.
Yeah.
So that's all.
So John was saying it. Well, just think in 2074 when your child says, "Yeah, I remember the coronavirus." No, you don't. You were only 3. So one of the first things I wanted to ask Tom was, how's things with all of this current affairs? How are they affecting you from a business standpoint? I know it's slowed things down for you. It's slowing down for everybody. But are you using it to kind of like almost like a reset point where you can kind of slow things down and catch back up on other things you've been wanting to work on and getting things ready to go ahead? So that way, when everything does kind of get back in sync, you'll be able to start pushing out a lot of product.
I mean, that's pretty much it. So the situation we're at right now, so we have 3 vendors that we rely on to produce our games. We have Blue Panther, who does most of it, but we get wood bits from Germany, and we get cards printed from another manufacturer in the U.S. Mm-hmm. Well, our card printer is under mandatory closure, and the place in Germany isn't doing anything right now. So we don't have any wood bits or cards coming in. So we're kind of stuck as far as the next few games we had on our docket were all games that had cards. So we're kind of stuck, so we don't have a card supplier. We still can produce games that don't have the cards, and we still have some cards that we bought previously that we're using. And Blue Panther's doing that out of his home, so no one's leaving the home.
Yeah.
So it's all everyone's staying. Sheltering in place and staying isolated and everything and being responsible about it. So in the interim, Mary and I are we're just trying to get caught up, basically, get games in our quiver so that when we do start up again, we can just fire them off at the pace we want to and be kind of ahead of the game. When we started the company, we had the first 6 games done before we started taking orders for the first game.
Mm-hmm.
And we like to get back to something like that. Whereas the last few months or couple of years, it's been, we get the game done 2 to 4 weeks. As far as layout and production, all that, 2 or 4 weeks before we release it. We'd rather have more time. That gives us more time to kind of market it, do videos and whatnot. Go over it one more time.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So we're getting stuff situated for that, and hopefully we'll be able to just get them out there at the pace we want to get them out there. We have so many games lined up, and we were hoping this year would be the year we got caught up. And this is kind of put a spanner in the works there, but we'll see how we do.
So just out of curiosity, the way you're kind of explaining it, all the parts come in and they go to that blue place and they assemble and ship out. Is that the way you guys do it?
Yeah. So Blue Panther handles the printing of the boxes, the maps, the books, the player aids, the counters, and then anything that's like a specialty bit, like a wooden piece, like a cube, stick, pawn, whatever, or cards. Those are from different places and we ship them to him. So the wood bits come to us, and then we separate and bag them ourselves.
So they're like prepped for him when he gets them.
And then he can take the bag and plop it in there. And we still have quite a few wood bits. I mean, our whole back bedroom is essentially filled with boxes of wood bits of different sizes and colors and shapes. It's really the cards that we're kind of stuck on. And the thing with the cards, of course, is that the games with cards sell better than the games without cards. So that's been our experience anyway. And so, we have games that don't have cards, and some still sell very, very well, obviously.
Sure.
But the ones we had lined up the next few games, like we had the sequel to Wars of Marcus Aurelius that's called Stilicho, Last of the Romans.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we can't release that yet. We have everything but the cards.
Yeah.
Dinosaur Table Battles, which Mary's very excited about.
Yeah.
We have everything but the cards. Streets of Shadows is a new game with designed by Joseph Miranda and Roger Mason, and it's Paris in World War II, and you are not resistance fighters and you're not collaborators. You're kind of doing a little bit of both, playing the sides against each other, trying to angle it. That has cards, so we can't release it yet.
Yeah,
you know?
That's tough.
And there's nowhere you can source that in the interim until like things kind of get back to normal.
Not really, because we're kind of low volume, and so if we were printing traditional print runs where we would need thousands of copies of each deck of cards, we might be able to find a place that would do that, but that puts us at a lot of financial risk that we don't normally want to take on.
No, I can understand.
The point of our whole print-on-demand model is that there's essentially no risk for us financially, and we're always guaranteed to make a profit. So that's
smart business. Smart business.
Yeah, it works well for us.
Now, Tom, because of this relation thing, I'm sure you still get designers sending you their game ideas and that. Does this situation that we're living in right now, will that affect your decision to accept or not accept a game?
Not so much, because right now we're generally just not accepting games because we have like over 20 games we're committed to.
Wow.
So, I mean, we have games that will carry us through next year. And part of what we're trying to do this year, especially because last year was a slower year for us. We had some family illness stuff to take care of. Is we're trying to get to the point where we're a bit scrappier and more flexible again, rather than having this long pipeline. Because you look at other like small companies, there was a small company, the little company that could, you guys might be aware of. They had a long pipeline at a certain point where it would be years before they got to things that they signed on. And I mean that just kills the thing.
Yeah.
And we don't want to be in that situation. And I would hate as a designer to be in that situation, to be waiting for years for the game to come out. The game we just released at all costs, Tim Taylor game, we signed that in 2017. Now, we didn't actually get that finished from the design until 2018, and then we needed to do development and whatnot on it. But that's still a lot longer than we'd like it to take to get from A to B. We'd rather be a lot more flexible. When we got the game Meltwater from Aaron Lee Escobedo, we were able to publish that the same year we signed it.
Nice.
And that's more where we want to be with it,
That's cool. And there was a game from, I think, that company you were talking about that I was looking forward to, and I think it's about an aircraft carrier, a Scratch 1 or Angels 1.5.
Yeah, Angels. Was it Angels 2.5 or Angels? So I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah, I was so looking forward to that, and gone.
Yeah. Well,
what, they just canceled it?
I think so, but it was there for years, man.
I'm trying to remember. I thought that was published. I don't recall, but
no, it was canceled.
It's just a tough thing.
It's not just Hollandspiele, though. I mean, think about it. GMT has games that are on their PA 500 list for years.
Years
before they get released.
Fields of Fire Volume 2.
Yeah, and it always gets pushed back at least another year from the estimated date. Atlantic Chase, that's one that I've been waiting on for a little while. I remember when I first backed it, that the estimated delivery time was something like middle of 2019. Year ago. And I'm not hating on GMT. I'm just giving it.
I understand.
Yeah.
Well, people don't realize the not just the design, but the development process and production process takes a lot of time, and that's the one thing that really blows me away with Hollandspiele is the speed at which you guys get a game in, develop it up, produce it, and then get it ready to go to print. Even if it's print on demand, that's still a very fast turnaround. And you guys do a great job with that.
Yes, you do.
Thank you very much. I mean, a lot of it is that we have a lot of time to do it because we're doing it full time. You know, when we started the company, we were stealing a few hours every week, and we weren't able to produce as quickly because of that. You know.
So it was Angels 1.5 and it was published. Rick has a copy.
Canceled, man.
So we got another question here from the audience. Says from John Longshore saying, so Tom, of all the games you produce, which one is your personal favorite to play?
Come on, Tom.
Dinosaur Table Battles.
Yes, that's a great answer. Dinosaur Table Battles. That'll be my answer. The game my personal favorite to play. You want to know? You want to know why? I mean, not only do I enjoy it as a play experience, but essentially, Dinosaur Table Battles is a very expensive present for my wife, who I love very much.
Of course.
So so I mean that's why right now it's my favorite. Now the best game I've done is probably This Guilty Land. I do enjoy playing that as well, but I would say Dinosaur Table Battles edges it out just because of the sentimental value, really.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I have 50 games on the shelf behind me. We've done 48 box games and so many expansions just from Hollandspiele, and only about half of those are mine that I've designed, and my other designs are with other publishers. So, you know, I have so many games. It's hard to say. You know, if I had 3 games to my name, it'd be easier to pick a favorite, I think. But
well, pick 3 then. Pick 3.
No, I mean, if I had,
make it harder on them.
I mean, I like them all. You know.
Yeah.
You got to remember, he wants all of them to sell, so he can't say, no, just these. These are the best. They're all the best.
I mean, if I didn't like them, we wouldn't publish them.
Right, obviously. And Tom, I think I've asked you this before, and I forgot the answer. But in your Table Battles series, I know this is going to be an ongoing thing, obviously, because it's a great thing. Are you planning on doing World War II something? Battle the Bulge? Something World War II. Tom, help me, please. Take my money.
The Bulge at Gettysburg.
Well,
that's great.
The thing is, if you look at the games I've designed, you'll find one game that takes place after 1870, and that was a game about hover tanks blowing each other up. Mm-hmm. So I'm not really into. I mean, I enjoy playing World War II games, but I've never designed them, and I don't know if I would. Now, if some other designer, and there are people who have done some scenarios for Table Battles, for World War II scenarios, if some other designer wanted to approach us about it, we might be open to that.
Okay, great.
Right now, the schedule's a little funky. The thing with Table Battles, especially, is it's kind of a way for me to do a game. You do an expansion in Table Battles. It's a way for me to do a game that kind of recharges my battery between more experimental stuff, and it has a quicker turnaround time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's something where, you know, we have to lay out the cards, but there's no box to design. There's no counters to lay out. There's no map to commission. No rule books to lay out. So that is like gives us a quicker turnaround time, so we can be a little more flexible. Yeah, deck of cards.
This is great.
Yeah, you know, and we kind of like that because it gives us that flexibility again, which we don't have as much as we used to, and we want to get back to that. But it's a little way we can do that. Same thing like I have a game coming out this June, which is not a war game, but it's called Field of the Cloth of Gold. And I designed it for the 500th anniversary of the meeting at the Field of the Cloth of Gold between Henry VIII and Francis I. Mm-hmm. And we were able to do that because I was like, okay, I want something we can do quickly to kind of get some of that spirit of doing it quickly again.
Mm-hmm.
And we can just get it out for this anniversary.
Yeah.
So, you know, February or whenever I started designing it, it's pretty much done at this point. We've been doing some tests of it, and we're planning to release it with the 500th anniversary. And that's a cool little thing, and it's quick, and we can be opportunistic that way, you know, and responsive, and not be in a position where we're, say, committing to a game that we might not release for 2 or 3 years. Maybe 2 or 3 years, the game doesn't have the resonance that we want it to.
That's a good point. You said that you came up with this idea in February. It's now 2 months later, and you're going to be publishing it in 2 months. That's the plan. So that's a very fast turnaround. How do you, can you just pull a design together that quick when you hear, obviously, I know it depends on the subject matter, but how is it you can just pull something up, say, hey, I want to do something for this anniversary of this event, and then boom, you pull a game together. Is that, drawn from other ideas that you've, done through the years? Maybe go into your notebook and say, hey, I can use this, and I can put it together with this theme to get a good game.
That's a good question, and I don't know if I have a good answer for it. I mean, that one particularly was just like, hey, that event's coming up. Maybe I can do like a quick Euro kind of game on it, because it's more of a Euro game in like the 90s Kinesia kind of style.
Okay.
So, and so that is a whole different bag of apples than doing a war game where I am doing a lot of research on the order of battle and sociological things. I mean, this is more of a lightly themed Euro game, so already it makes that burden a lot easier to shoulder.
Sure.
Right. And then it just, like, I kind of thought, okay, what is the things I'm trying to represent? And it just kind of came together. I mean, I've had situations where games just kind of came together. My best-selling game of all time is not a Hollandspiele game. Is this Irish Gauge from Capstone Games?
Yeah.
This is sold more than anything else I've done, and this I designed in an hour driving home from work. This thing I didn't like research it like deeply. I wasn't struggling with it. It's something that just kind of came to me as I was stuck in traffic. Got home, jotted it down, started testing it, never had to change it, and I have no idea how that happened, because no other game has had that experience where, oh yeah, I got it right the first time while driving home from work.
Well, it came out. Yeah, exactly. It was that divine inspiration. You just got it, and then gamers get it too because they're able to connect to it that easy, and it sells that quickly and that well. So that's a great thing.
Yeah, I mean, to a degree, a simple game is easier to do than a complex game. Sometimes it's harder because a simple game, you can go too simple. If you go too simple, you don't have much of a game there, right? Yeah. But it's going to be an easier thing, I think, to. Yeah, I'm saying words. Okay.
It can still be simple while still being deep, which is what I think some people don't get. You don't have to be overly complex. You don't have to have rules to account for the water that the Italians are boiling their noodles in to make a damn dirty Italians up there. to have a deep game. And actually one of yours that I liked, Brave Little Belgium, is a simple game, but I think it's a deep game.
Yeah.
There's a fair amount of strategy to the game, but it's very simple to pick up and learn and play within a very short period of time.
Yeah, I'm really glad we published that one. Working with Ryan and Dave on that was great, and they really, they really knew what audience they were going for with the game, what kind of game. That would be an introductory kind of game, and they really designed for that. And then we've been working with them on their next game. Excuse me. Working with them on their next game, a White Eagle Defiant, which is a World War II game, Dan. And the idea is, if Brave Little Belgium was someone's first war game, then White Eagle Defiant would be someone's second war game. So it's like a step up in complexity. It's not, Case Blue or anything, but it's a step upwards in that direction. And we're really excited about that. That one does not have cards. So once we get the map done, and Mark Mahaffey's working on the map, we'll be able to get that out there.
And Tom, just not changing the subject, but the way my mind works, I'm going to ask you a question that's completely not related to what we've been speaking about.
I understand. We talked before, Dan. I know how this works.
Thank you very much.
He's very much squirrel.
Mushrooms.
You know, the cachet for me of not table battles, but Hollandspiele is the production value of the game. Okay, I really enjoy the game. I enjoy getting the game. I enjoy smelling the box, the ink. It reminds me of my childhood. You know, the ink with the stenograph, and you just
the mimeograph. It's like it's quiz time. All right.
And so, and the same thing was with Victory Point Games when they had their pizza boxes and all that. There was something just personal about that. Are you ever, Tom, planning on changing that?
I kind of doubt. I mean, I want Mary and I both want the smell to go away, and we're working with Blue Panther on trying to minimize and get rid of it. It is not, from what we've been told by the manufacturer, it is not dangerous in any way.
I like the smell. I didn't say anything.
Other people don't, though. Other people don't like the smell, and they don't want to play our games because of it. So that's one reason why I want it. But other than that, I don't see us. The essential model is going to be the same. You know, we've had people ask, you know, like, well, when are you going to start doing a P500, and when are you going to do like a traditional print run? And it's like, I don't see any reason to do that.
No.
We're making a living as it is.
Well, your games have that what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah. Like that mom and pop feel, right?
Yeah.
So when I open the box, I know that someone put the crap in the box. Yeah. I don't feel like a machine came through and stamp, put it all in there, and then I open up and I smell the Chinese slave factory as I open the box, you know? That one, yours, is just mom and pop feel.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. You know, we once had someone complain to us that they got the box and the insert was missing. And
there's no insert.
Yeah, I know exactly. Like, no, we don't have inserts. You know, but people have different expectations. You know, one thing when we published Infamous Traffic, we had a lot of people who assumed it'd be a mounted board because for them the idea of a paper map was just they couldn't understand it. But like, we're not going to do a mounted board. I don't see any reason to do that. You know, we do what we do the way we want to do it, and we try to have that mom and pop feel. One thing that we try to do with our podcast is kind of give people a sense of who Mary and I are as people, so they associate Hollandspiele with Tom and Mary.
Yeah,
and hopefully we're likable enough that they dig it. You know,
no, you guys have done a great job with that. You know, not just with like these guys are talking about. I have a term I use, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way at all. It's meant the way these guys are saying it too. Garage kit. You know, it's almost like a garage kit.
Yeah,
it's that intimate. Hey, I had this labor of love. I put it together, and you know, you're getting in it. It's not all the sparkly, shiny. I mean, your games are fantastic quality. Fantastic. It's just, you know, it's a little more personal feeling. You know, you can tell it's got that smaller shop feel to it, and that's what's great. That's what was so great about Victory Point Games as well. And you know, you guys have taken that over that area over, and you guys have just run with it, which is crazy. How many games you guys have put out is just a remarkable thing to watch. But we're looking forward to seeing more games from you guys too. And I know Dan, every time he gets a game, I can tell because he calls me up. He's like, "Dude, I just got the new Hollandspiele."
No, but
it's great.
even like on the chat, Bobby Factor says, "Count me in for smell factor," because we were born in the 60s and the 70s, man. It's free, man.
There's no telling what's been up your nose.
Hey, just because I got mushrooms on here doesn't mean anything.
And Patchwork Picture says you look like a box sniffer. That's why he's always fixated on a box and a lid on his No Enemies Here or Gaming News. Now we know why. The secret's out.
So just to clarify, with your orders right now, none of yours are going out that have any cards in them then, right? Unless you don't have like any set aside or anything like that.
So the ones...
That looks really strange with the green screen.
Yeah, dude.
Disappearing game.
So, the ones that we're selling on the store, if it says that you can buy it, then we still have cards for that. Now, those cards when those cards run out, we'll stop taking orders. We'll say sold out or out of stock or something like that on our site. So right now we do have some games with cards that are, they are shipping. Others, I don't know offhand which ones they are, but others we have run out of cards. Those that we're about to run out of cards. But any of our new games, we can't release yet. We can't order the cards. So we have cards on stock, in stock. We actually did a big card order right before they closed up their shop, and we were lucky to get it. Unfortunately, some of the cards were damaged, which was not great. UPS broke the box en route and decided to spray disinfectant inside it.
No! What the hell are they thinking?
No, it's gotta be organic.
Morons. Do they reimburse you for that? Or do you get like insurance from UPS if they do crap like that?
You know what you're reminding me is that I need to actually follow up on that. I was supposed to do that last week, so I'll do that. I'm getting the death stare right now, so yeah, I will do that.
I didn't mean to get you in trouble.
You just got him in trouble with the boss. So Robert has a question. He says, "What has been your hardest game, most difficult, frustrating, delayed, complications, etc., to produce from concept to publication, and why?"
That would probably be This Guilty Land, and that was because I had to spend like a year and a half in that time period looking at primary sources from that time period, dealing with that depressing, difficult subject for that long. And then as we were getting it ready, we also had to be careful that we were communicating about it well ahead of time and doing so clearly and effectively so people would know what the game was and what the game wasn't. We didn't want anyone to get control of the narrative of what this game was and project what they thought it was. So it took a lot of, it was very careful, very thoughtful work on our part. And there were a lot of ways it could have gone wrong. So it was very stressful. And then you add the subject matter and the time spent working on it. It was not a fun experience. I'm glad that we did it, but
I don't get it, Tom. Why do a game that's gonna depress you in a depressive subject? And
why write a book about it?
Like
because you feel compelled to.
No,
well, that's exactly it. And actually, I originally didn't want to do it. I had the idea, and I was like, I am not going to do this. This is going to be terrible. It's going to put me through the ringer. But I kept being drawn back to it, and just felt like, okay, I can actually say something with this game, I guess. And that's what I ended up doing. And it worked out okay. It's the best game I've done. It's one of our best-selling games. It's certainly given me some laurels to sit on, so I can just do games about dinosaurs.
Yes.
But
speaking of dinosaurs, Beat Cafe says, "Tom, any thoughts about doing another Supply Lines game for other time periods?" There you go.
Probably not with dinosaurs. I know Mary would like there to be a dinosaur Supply Lines.
Yes.
But that's I'm not promising that. No. I did not. No, I just said.
Dinophilia.
Supply Lines.
But I will say that we have a couple things that are in the early stages of being in the works. There's a game on a particular theater of the American Civil War where it would be appropriate for that model. Most theaters of the American Civil War wouldn't be appropriate because of rail lines and whatnot. Someone else is working on that, but that's slow going, mostly because right now we have so many things in our pipeline we can't take on new stuff just yet. But then there is one that I am working on, and we're not quite ready to announce it yet, but I can say that it centers on a certain king of Prussia, and I will leave it at that.
Nice. Well, you can always do another 3 to 4 player game in the style of, in honor of Richard Berg, you could call it Dynasty. That way you get a little bit of mix of both. Make Mary happy.
And it's funny.
He would love a pun like that, too.
It's funny that you say that, Tom. Your game, if I'm not mistaken, Westphalia, which is a 6-player game.
Yeah.
Is there a solo module to that?
No. Lord, no. It's for 6 players and exactly 6 players. Only 6 players. You can't play it with 5.
What happened? What possesses you to do a 6-player game? Like, what happened?
So I've always been interested in the subject. In fact, I can trace Westphalia to research I was doing like 10 years ago for a game on the 30 Years' War.
For those of us who are dumb with that part of history, what's Westphalia? Can you give me a brief snippet?
Sure. So at the end of the 30 and 80 Years' Wars, all the participants kind of got together in Westphalia in what's now Germany, and they had peace talks. Those peace talks lasted 4 or 5 years while they were having the peace talks. And this is the Holy Roman Empire. This is Sweden, France, the Dutch, the Spanish, and all the different, there are hundreds of delegations to this. There are hundreds of components of the Holy Roman Empire. Each who had a seat at the table and had their own agenda. And they all are just trying to get a peace going on after 30 or 80 years in the other case of warfare.
So it's the Holy Roman Empire fighting who?
So it's the Holy Roman Empire fighting the Swedish and the French. And then their Spanish cousins are fighting the Dutch and the French. And people within the Holy Roman Empire are also fighting the Holy Roman Empire. And there's a confessional element to that, in that you have people who are largely Protestant versus people who are largely Catholic within the empire. And so they're trying to get to a peace settlement. Basically, while they're doing that, they are still fighting the war, still fighting major battles, and thousands of people are still dying because they want to get some kind of small advantage at the table to negotiate with. And then they drag out the negotiations, hoping that the army out in the field will, in turn, counterattack and get some small advantage. So that's kind of like the subject matter. So it's a 6-player negotiation game.
But you're fighting a war while you're negotiating?
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds really cool, actually.
Yeah, I like it. But it's for exactly 6 players because I'm trying to capture the dynamics both within the Empire and outside the Empire, and each faction in the game balances the other factions. And if you remove one, you no longer have a functioning game. And we knew when we were doing that, that's a big ask. Originally, it was going to be 7 players. And then Mary said, no one has a group of 7 players. You might have people who have groups of 6 because you have games that go up to 6 that people play. So make it for 6. So I made it for 6. And we said, this might be a flop because it might be a game people are only going to be able to play at conventions. And people might not buy it because, there is no solo mode, does not scale. So it was kind of a creative risk. But again, because our model prevents us from taking on any financial risk, we can take those kind of creative risks. And it actually sold really well, and people seem to like it and appreciate it. And one thing is it plays in 2 hours. So you have other games that you need 5 or 6 players. Like Here I Stand, you really don't want to play that with 2 players, right? You definitely need a full group of people to play Here I Stand. But that's a game that takes all day to play. So having a game that takes 2 hours to play for six only people, it seems to have worked.
Yeah,
so
it's pretty good.
I'm glad.
Have you played it, Dan?
Actually, I was asked at WBC. I was asked by Tom, they needed a sixth player, I think.
Yeah.
But I think I was too drunk.
I don't think we'll be playing this year.
Well, I mean, you're doing a lot of practice and workout for your big arm wrestling match there, Dan. You know,
and we saw it paid off.
Yeah, it sure did. I mean, you placed second in that tournament.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Second's pretty good.
First loser. So Brian says here, I have to admit I have no Hollandspiele in my collection. What is the entry-level drug to hook me on Hollandspiele? And I see Gimpy's gal is also getting into the show here, along with the baby.
She brought the baby in to say goodnight.
Nice.
Say goodnight.
Can I answer that, Tom? Can I answer that?
Oh,
thank you.
Sure.
Okay.
He's a little worried.
I don't
Doesn't matter. Get them all because the boxes smell amazing.
You know
That's
what?
his answer.
Brian, it depends. Now, table battles, okay? I enjoy it tremendously. It solos fantastically. It's a two-player game, but play it to the best of your abilities, like Marco Wargamer says. You know what I'm saying? But other than that, Meltwater. I mean, these are crazy titles. But yeah, I mean, in essence, that game, you play to die. It's ridiculous. You play to die. I mean, what? So you die to the best of your abilities. And other than that, I mean, I'm a sci-fi guy. Escape from Hades. That's my 2 cents.
If you're looking for a solo game, or you're looking for a 2-player game, or you're looking for a 6-player game, specifically 6, got it covered.
Yeah, the thing is, we publish a wide variety of games, some of which are more unusual than others. And so I actually spent a lot of my time online telling people what games not to buy, what games won't work for them.
4X.
4X is one that doesn't work for most people, and you want to be very sure before you buy 4X, so you don't get mad at me that you didn't like it. The back of the box says you probably won't like this.
I freaking love 4X.
How can you not?
No. This is a different 4X. It's not 4X. Right. You have to look it up on the website.
This is a game about currency trading, where every currency has a value only relative to other currencies on the foreign exchange, or 4X.
Yeah. And it's not 4X.
You know what, Brian? I'm going to go out on a limb, and Tom, I didn't make a deal with Tom with this. If you buy, let's say, if you buy one of the games I just suggested and you don't like it, I'll refund you.
Dan will eat it.
Wow.
Wow.
Just so he can get the box to sniff it.
Okay.
I'll tell you a couple that I've seen, and one of the ways I always judged on whether a game was good or popular or not is the old group that used to exist but actually got shut down on Facebook, the Wargamer Pay It Forward, where a lot of the guys would trade games around.
Sure.
And I would look to see if a game popped up on there a lot, and if it did pop up there a lot, it meant that a lot of people had bought it, so they had a copy of it. And I saw Table Battles on there a lot. I saw Charlemagne on there a fair amount. Agricola was on there a fair amount. So all 3 of those I would say would be a good choice. If you're looking for something solitaire, I heard a lot of good things about Charlemagne. Just putting in my 2 cents.
Charlemagne is great. Wolma is great. NATO Air Commander. I mean, you can't go wrong in any of those titles, honestly. If you're looking for a solitaire game, if you're looking for a multiplayer game, then Table Battles would probably be a great entry point. But then again, if you want Hex and Counter, you don't want the Table Battles abstract part of it, which there's nothing wrong with that. Some people like Hex and Counter over that. There's plenty of those on there as well to tempt you. What was it? Lost Provinces is another great entry level war game. I mean, it does get you into understanding some of the basics of war games that you're going to see in other war games, especially if you've not played it any war games before. So it's a really good entry level war game. And it's good for experienced war gamers too. I mean, it's a lot of fun. I played it. I did a review on it and really enjoyed it. And but it's not too hard, but it's definitely keeps you entertained. That's for sure.
Yeah. I would say, what was that? Brian who was asking?
Yes.
If you're on the Twitter, I have a Twitter account, Mary and I do, which is at Tom and Mary, TOMANDMARY. And if you tweet at me, I can help you pick out the game that's right for you. I'm happy to do that. That's part of, I get to play games and push coms around for a living every day of my life. It's my only source of income. I don't mind spending some of that time helping someone find a game that works for them.
Brian asks, do I trust a man with mushrooms on his green screen?
Speaking to what Tom's talking about there, that's part of the whole reason I got into war games in the first place. Is it's so much more personal than the mainstream version of games, because in the mainstream you can't talk to the designers, you can't talk to the publishers. They're not going to respond directly to you if I send a message to Fantasy Flight Games, for example. The designer of X-Wing is not going to talk to me and give me his 2 cents. But you get plenty of that, not just with Hollandspiele, but plenty of other wargaming companies. DVG does it, Lock and Load does it. I'm brain farting out here. GMT does it. Plenty of the wargaming companies do that. They have that more personal touch, and they're willing to take that extra step.
Yes.
I've always appreciated that.
It's fantastic, and that's why it makes us it makes us a little bit of a family. I mean, I know it sounds cliche, but me and Tom, we hugged when we were at WBC. Didn't we hug, Tom?
I'm not a hugger, so I don't remember. Maybe a handshake. I don't remember a hug.
No,
I was going to say, I think
I hugged Tom.
It might have been you were trying to get away from Grant, and Grant said, "Stop that guy," and he grabbed you, and you took it as a hug, and it was not a hug, and that's how you ended up.
And that I remember. Okay, yeah.
No, but it's true. I mean, the wargaming community. I mean,
oh yeah,
it's ridiculous. I try to get that message across. Like, everybody will help you. Everybody. Like, it's like the pill. 99.9%. There's always going to be that one jerk. But anyways, they will. On BGG, everybody's going to help. They're going to help. They're going to help.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. You got a question here from John, who's saying, would you consider designing a game that focuses on the Cossacks during the Battle of Stalingrad or another battle like Berestechko?
No, that one.
I'm not familiar with Berestechko either, and probably not. Again, World War II isn't really my...
Come on, Tom.
I think what do I have to say? What do I have to that hasn't been done already from World War II?
I thought the Cossacks were horse.
That battle right there, that hasn't been done.
I'd be more interested in like Napoleonic era stuff, and I still can't. I'm not planning on doing a Napoleonic game anytime soon because I don't have the knowledge base, and then everything's been done so many different ways. What do I have that's new? So it'd be finding out what's new, and then make sure I have the knowledge base where I can speak intelligently about it and not embarrass myself, essentially.
But you're really not a publisher until you've gotten a Bulge game and a Gettysburg game and a Waterloo game all. So why don't you just combine them all into one? That, like we were saying before, the Bulge at Gettysburg and the trip to the Waterloo.
Well, he does have a Gettysburg game. Table battles.
Yeah,
table battles, man.
Mm-hmm. Put it all on table battles.
Give us a medieval version of Ambush, and I will be very, very happy.
I like that.
Yeah, that's something.
Slightly ambitious.
The swordsman creeping through. You got the little book. You turn to the paragraph, and it says an archer pops up, and it shoots an arrow through your neck. That would be friggin' awesome.
That's just awesome.
Yeah, see? You've already got 2 customers right here.
Brant saying if you've got kids, to grab a copy of Blitzkrieg.
That's
Brian,
a
if
good
he's got kids.
Yeah, that's Scott Muldoon and his son Miles did that together, and I'm very proud of that cover too.
Awesome. I mean, that's why I bought the game, because of the cover.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even notice that said Blitzkrieg, and it actually is Blitzkrieg.
Blitzkrieg, yeah.
Look at that, Gimpy.
No kidding. Is that like a Hex Encounter one? I haven't played that one.
Gimpy, you gotta get it for the only kid that loves you, man. You gotta get it.
So
look at that one.
Their counters on a square grid, but so it's a very simple like tank tactics game.
Oh, my little boy would love that.
I mean,
Yeah, you and your son probably have a good time with that game.
Yeah, he loves tanks. He'll like just fondle the counters when I get a new game. He's like, "Oh, look, it's a tank, it's a plane, it's a blah blah blah."
Nah, it's you know what? It's because you've played. What's the game that this was modeled after? Blitzkrieg.
The cover
Panzer Blitz?
the cover
Panzer Blitz?
is not
Panzer Blitz. Panzer
yeah
Blitz
the games
Pathfinder.
don't play anything alike, but
I mean, it's insane fun. It's
yeah.
I mean, come on. I mean, it's not a case blue all the time. You know what I'm saying, Kevin Sharp? If you're listening.
So Berestechko was fought in 1651.
Okay.
So it's definitely not World War II.
All right. No.
And
Well,
Brian says he's going to pull the trigger on Blitzkrieg. He has a 6-year-old grandson who's tired of playing Memoir 44. Perfect game for you two right there.
Brian, if you don't like that game, I'll refund you.
It doesn't look like it has any cards either. I'm glad
They
it's
have
on
no cards.
the product right now, so you should be good to go. Oh yeah, that does look fun.
It's not going to fail, Brian. It ain't going to fail.
See, I can't keep doing this. This is like the kids' college fund being invested in cardboard.
You know what, though? I really don't think that Tom will mind. So, you know,
His kids won't mind.
Well, you know, here I got a question for Tom here. You know, you're switching hats from publisher to developer to designer all the time, you know, with different projects you're working on, either your own games or games that come in. You're either designing or you're developing, but you're always publishing. Do you ever get tired or burnt out on working on games? And how do you manage to keep a fresh perspective with each new project that you work on?
I don't think we really get burnt out. There are times when, you know, I'll not do much for a couple weeks, you know, recharge my batteries a bit. And because we're doing different kinds of games, and because development work on someone else's game is very different than designing one of my games, it's constantly being refreshed. And the other thing, the most important thing, is that I'm not doing it on my own. Mary and I are doing it. Mary does an awful lot of it as far as running the company and making everything look great. And I have her to bounce ideas off of, and you know, we're doing it together. So I'm doing something I enjoy full time with my best friend, and that does not get old. That's always fun.
Yeah, it's something to be actually jealous of, I think. You know, the being able to do something you love is just fantastic. A lot of people work for just a paycheck, not doing something they're passionate about like you are.
Yeah, I'm the luckiest guy in the world, and I know it. I still don't know how I managed to accomplish this where I'm doing this full time, but I'm so glad that I am.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Well, I think it kind of comes through in your games, though. Like I was saying earlier about that mom and pop, that homegrown feel that comes across.
Love is there.
Yeah, it feels like someone actually gave a shit when they put it in the box, and you can tell that when you open it up and you look at the stuff in it. You don't get that in every game that you open, like the mass-printed stuff.
No, and did Gimpy just say shit? Are we allowed to say shit?
Last I checked, I'm like 30-some years old, man. I mean, I'm like the young guy. Oh, I don't know. Tom, do you mind if I ask how old you are? You look like you're in my ballpark.
I am 37?
Yeah, I was doing that the other day, too. I had to think about it for a second.
She's nodding. So I'm 37.
Damn.
Yeah.
We're way older than that. We know our age. We don't have to go. And we're in the age where we should be going. I'm 50. What?
That's what I'm saying. Me and Tom are like the young guys here. Most of the people in the chat and who watch this stuff are like 60, going on geriatrics. So,
hey,
a little cussing isn't going to hurt them.
Geriatrics.
Well, you know, the thing is, once I get to a certain age, I kind of stop keeping track of birthdays and that. You know, it's
I'm a certain age, eh? Ooh.
No, I know I'm in my 30s. I know I'm closer to the one end than the other, but I
oh my God, you're talking like you're an old man or something. But what's the matter with you?
I did the same thing the other day. Someone asked me how old I was, and I kept telling them 37, and the wife was like, "You were 38 years old." She had to remind me. So
John's math, 37, 38, 39, 39, 39.
Tom, are you still at? I'm looking at your website right now. Are there still the canvas maps available?
No. So the canvas maps, we only do that as like special little sales, like for a week or two at a time, every few months. So we had one in March, I think, and so the next one will be probably sometime in the summer. We're actually going to make sure we have canvas on hand because the little board for this Field of Cloth of Gold game is canvas and only canvas.
Oh, nice.
Now, is there a reason why you don't have this available all the time? Take my money, Tom.
It's hard to ship.
Well, there's that, and I know some of Blue Panther's other clients, I think, offer the canvas maps on a more regular basis. But for us, it's almost kind of tactical as far as, okay, we have some time between releases. We want to make sure we have enough money to pay our bills. What will give us a shot in the arm? And making it available for a week or two, we get a lot more sales than if it's available all the time.
I see.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, you got that FOMO that they're available. I need to get them now.
Yeah,
which is great.
The problem is with me, I've got FOMO 24/7. So
but they're worth it. They're great maps.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was helping Lock and Load with some of their canvas maps when they were doing some for World of War 85. And we were doing some like test shipments to check how well it was shipping and if there was any damage and stuff like that before he was getting the stuff out there. And canvas is a lot harder to ship with shipping companies and then just it arriving than people understand. Now, I don't think Tom was sending them quite as big as the.
I was going to say it's not the same size maps. Yeah, that's like the Gigundo.
Is there any way to yeah, I pulled out the Belgium thing. Is there any way to fold it in your size game box without it ruining?
You really don't want to fold it if I'm right.
Yeah,
well,
you can.
You don't have to fold it like tight fold. You know what I'm saying?
So I've never folded it and put it in the box. We actually have we have them just hanging out loose here.
You can, but I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, you can, and you can flatten it out again, but it's probably best just to store it flat or rolled up. They're kind of they're an upgrade. They're a luxury thing, right? And so, to treat it like a luxury thing, I guess. Yeah. You don't need the canvas map to play the games. And this Field of Cloth of Gold game, it's an 8.5 by 11 map, so it's not going to be folded. It's going to fit right in the box.
Yeah,
you're talking to war gamers here. You don't need tweezers. You don't need counter clippers. You don't need one of those things that you put on top of the rack. Plexiglass. Yeah. You don't need a bottle of scotch. You don't need your cigar.
What? How do you not need a bottle of scotch?
Because scotch is disgusting.
That's dangerous.
Bourbon. No. That's the way to go.
Bourbon, scotch, whiskey.
Hey, look, you know what? Whatever's available.
So
look, Tom is not. He's not laughing, smiling. He doesn't even crack. Like Tom, what'd I say? What'd I say?
You didn't say nothing. It's just I have no context for it because I've never touched a drop of alcohol in my life.
Really?
So I've never imbibed, and I know scotch and bourbon and whatnot exist, but they're all the same to me.
So. You remind me of a guy I served with. He was in the Marines. He never cussed. He never drank. He never went to the clubs with us. I mean, he was a straight arrows guy I've ever met in my life. Nicest guy. Still a great friend of me to this day, but God, we love to rib him over.
Yeah. I bet you was the best sniper in the league.
No. He was a calm guy like me. He was a real good guy, though. Yeah, although I got to say, he probably had it figured out because the guy was built like a Greek god. I mean, straight six-pack, just swole, good-looking, always eating well, and women just fell off of him because he was so damn good-looking.
I bet you was Italian.
No. Well, damn, he's colored like Italian, dark hair and shit, but he didn't talk kind of weird like you do.
So let me ask you, Tom, with all this work that you do on games, do you think it makes you a better gamer? Are you able to like switch off your analytical part? Like when you look at a game, you sit down and you look at it from the design perspective. Can you ever turn that off and just sit down and get immersed in the story and have fun that way?
I mean, I can, but I would say, I mean, most of the games I play. Well, first of all, most of the games I play are the games that we publish.
Sure.
Once you start doing that, especially at the pace we do, that's pretty much all your gaming. But even when it's not, most of my interesting games is, I mean, it's a business focused interest as far as the craft of design and whatnot. My interest in the kind, like, I fell into war games kind of accidentally, because I did one war game as a lark, and that got published, and my Euro games didn't. And so I did another war game, and after that, okay, I better start playing war games now. And I love war games, but I mean, I kind of gravitated to it because that's what I was successful at. And so most of the time I spend with the design, even if as I'm being immersed, I'm still thinking about how it models, what it's modeling, what it's saying through its mechanics, what ideas is introducing or innovating on. And so that part kind of doesn't go away, but for me, that's part of the fun though too. So
sure. Yeah, because I know I played some, sometimes you play a game with some designers, not all. Some designers will sit down and they're just looking at the board, and you can see like they're mathing it out. They're going, okay, this is this, this is this, this is this. They're trying to find the optimal path. They're trying to puzzle it together. Whereas, I was wondering, can you just say, I'm not going to puzzle. I'm just going to play it and experience it for fun. I'm not going to try to overanalyze it. I'm just going to play it like a gamer.
Yeah, I'll say the other thing too is I'm bad at playing games. Whether they're my games or someone else's, I'm terrible at playing them, and so I don't have to worry about getting better at them.
Tom, I'm going to have to go. This is my last question. I really appreciate you being on. It's a lot of fun. I know I rib you this and that, but your games, I always check in the back who play tests your games, and you don't have such a huge number of people, and the games are very successful in terms of rule books and all that. Now, how do you do that? How do you minimize the amount of play testing and get a solid product out?
So we do a lot of play tests. Not all our play testers are credited and don't want to be credited. So we respect that. And before the game gets to us, there's usually been quite a bit of testing done before we start taking a whack at it. And so I mean, some games get, especially the multiplayer games, like the games that are 3, 4, 5, 6 players, you have a lot more player dynamics there, rather than trying to make sure that the mechanics are working. You're also making sure that different player counts work and different types of play styles work. So those require broader testing than, say, a 2-player competitive experience. Those are easier to test with a smaller group, but we still test as much as we can.
And that's what I meant by that, is that what I see is that you don't have such a huge number of people written in the back of your rule books, and the games are solid, man. So it's like, very good. Tom,
not a whole lot of errata.
No, not really. There's not a lot of errata from Hollandspiele Games. Anyways, Tom, thank you very much. I'm going to have to go. Mo, thanks. Gimpy,
the other side. The other side. There you go.
And Tom, thank you very much. You made great games. I'll keep buying your games 100%.
Especially for the boxes.
Take
it easy, guys.
Thanks.
Later, Dan.
So Patrick Pixers has a question here. He says, Tom, have you ever read Xenophon's Anabasis? I think it would make an amazing solo game.
I don't think I've read the Anabasis. I have read some Xenophon, but not that one yet. I got plenty of stuff to catch up on, though. I do enjoy primary sources and classical sources, especially. They tell such good stories, So even like you look at Herodotus. Herodotus is not necessarily accurate. That's okay. They're great stories.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing is there are some things that are super accurate, and then there's things that are just enjoyable or more enjoyable. So you kind of find the balance in both.
I gotta ask, what's a Xenophon?
He's a Greek dude. He's a historian, wrote some history stuff. If I'm remembering correctly, he did a kind of sequel of sorts to Thucydides' history of the Peloponnesian War. Thucydides didn't finish it, and then Xenophon picks up with almost like immediately after, with covering the rest of the war. But I don't remember the name of that particular book. I know the story he's talking about. I see that. I have not read the book, but I'm familiar with the story. Yeah, that is an exciting story, and it could be a good solo game.
I was going to say that does sound like it would be a good Hollandspiele title. It's different. It's unique. Mm-hmm. It's not something that everybody hears about all the time. That's super familiar. We made the joke before about Bulge, Gettysburg, all that stuff. It's this type of thing where you really stand out because you find those unique subjects. Just like Dave Thompson, who's just walked in here, and he said hi to everybody. He's another one that, as a designer, he's come up with a whole bunch of very unique, subjects that he's designed games on and been very successful with it, and same as you guys have done.
Yeah, he kind of does the World War II versions of Hollandspiele stuff.
Kind of, sort of. Now, what would you say? A lot of people, I'm sure, you talk to a lot of people at cons and stuff, say, yeah, I got a design, or I want to be a designer, or stuff like that. You hear that, I'm sure, probably more often than you care to hear. What would your recommendation be to anybody who's, watching? If they're considering design, what would you say is a good place to start? And any advice that you would give to a prospective designer?
Oh, man.
I know it could be a really deep hole, a rabbit hole,
yeah.
But just something simple.
So the thing is, first of all, to recognize that different people design in different ways. So finding what is your method, because my method might not be the same as someone else's. You hear other designers talk about, well, start with doing a variant or whatnot. That's not how I started, but that might work for someone if they're more of a tinkerer, right? Mm-hmm. For me, I think the most important thing, because we do get designs for first-time designers where they spent so much time getting all the little details right. They have, where every unit was on that day. They know what that unit had for breakfast and how that impacted their performance. And they give us all this information, but then don't really tell us anything about it. Have a point of view. Have a thesis. Have an argument you're making with the game, like what was important and why. Give us the forest and not just all the trees.
Sure.
So if you're going into it with a purpose of, I'm going to tell this story in this way, I'm going to express this idea about why this event happened the way it did or how it could have gone differently. If you go in with that, it's going to be a learning process, but you're already going to have a leg up over folks who just, they go in for the complete list of who was in charge of what regiment and what was in this hex. That every model, this is something that the Vocal Runke says a lot. That comes from George Box, who did a lot of statistics stuff. All models are wrong, but some are useful. Mm-hmm. And if you go in with awareness of that and just, what are you trying to say? Have something to say. I think you're gonna find it much smoother. Whatever that path looks like that takes you to where you want to go. If you have that destination in mind.
Okay. Now, what about for taking it a different step, not just for designers, but what about somebody who's curious about development work?
So if you're curious about development work, and I've only, developed in the context of first being a designer, right? Mm-hmm. And then developed it as far as working for or as a publisher. But if you're looking just to be a developer, I mean, you got to have kind of a good head for what works and what doesn't within a game, and you need to. I would say the worst thing someone could do as a developer. So the two worst things you do as a developer is to be a pushover, right, and like not express anything, not contribute anything. But then also the other thing is to be like a backseat designer.
Yeah.
You know, you hear about games where the developer basically wants to turn it into their kind of game that's really different from what the game's supposed to be. So you have to have an understanding of what the designer's going after. And I think to a degree there, it probably helps if you're friendly with them.
Mhm.
Like you look at Herman Luttman and Fred Manzo, they develop each other's designs, and they're friends, and it works well together. Ryan Heilman and Dave Shaw, now they're both designers, but sometimes one does more development work and one does more design work. And again, they're friends; they understand each other, communicate with each other. So
Sure.
I think that the first thing is making sure you have that some kind of relationship, some kind of rapport with the designer, so that you know what they're expressing, and you can help them express it, help them get across what they want to get across, and in a way, you know, that's fun for people to play.
Yeah.
So I would say just having the right attitude there, because I mean, I'm sure if you there are plenty of designers where if you write them, say, hey, can I develop? They're looking for developers.
Oh yeah.
Plenty of publishers are looking for developers, you know, and it's as long as you're not trying to impose yourself upon the game, and as long as you're not, you know, so starstruck by it that you're not doing the job, I think you get that middle ground, you're fine.
Yeah.
Right.
I think there was a really good comment that was made by Alan Emmerich from Victory Point. We were talking about Victory Point before. He said this to me years ago. He says, you know, I could shake a tree and a dozen designers will drop out. He goes, they're a dime a dozen. He goes, what's worth its weight in gold is a good developer. Because like you were saying there, for those reasons, you know, how important development work is in the relation to getting a design ready for publication.
Yeah.
Doing those finalized steps without changing the overall vision that was originally designed.
Hopefully not having to redo it, because sometimes, you know, a designer may go in with a certain idea, and he has a concept, but maybe there's some flaws in it, and you know, they're provable, you know, by the developer, and a good developer will say, I know what you're trying to get at. The way you're going about it is not correct. Not that it's wrong, it's just not correct. Here, let's try it this way, you know, and hopefully that's what goes back to what you were saying before about having the good rapport to where you can say that to a designer and they'll listen to you and say, oh yeah, hey, it showed me something. You know, sometimes a fresh look is all you need.
So one way you could kind of look at it would be the designer is the reporter who writes the original story, and the developer is the editor who gets it finalized before it goes to print.
Yeah.
Kind of, or the architect and the builder.
You had to say something different, huh? You couldn't just
say, no.
It's you're on point, man.
No. It's the same, but you know the relation where it's like you have the architect who came up with this is what the building should look like, and does all the math and everything, and then the builder says, yeah, okay, that's great, but here's what I need to do to make it work. Just the same as with an editor. I get what you're saying. Here's how it sounds better. You know, just like you know, to your point, like you were saying there.
No, it's just got to give you a little hell there, Mo.
Of course you do. That's what we do, man. So now, are there any mechanics or themes or maybe even gimmicks that you'd like to see in games more often that you're not seeing now?
Gosh. I mean, really, I like chip pull games. There are plenty of them. There's still room for more. I mean, I would say. For me, really, it's more. I'm more interested in games that have something to say, and maybe something more than this is why Wellington won the Battle of Waterloo. Games that take on more serious subjects, and whatever mechanics get you there, whatever theme gets you there, whatever gimmicks get you there, it's golden. As long as I really like things that are kind of pushing the limits of what we can do with games.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about games is it's a very old art form, really. I mean, it's going back. You look at backgammon.
Mm-hmm.
That's 4,000 or 5,000 years old. I mean,
yeah.
it's been around for a long time, games, but we're only just starting to scratch the surface as to what games can accomplish and represent and do. And the thing about games, and I get on this little high horse a lot over on the Twitter, is that games are systems, and so they're very good at representing and literalizing systemic factors. So you can do a game that expresses how these invisible systems would whether it's economics or politics or whatever impact everyone's lives, right? You can make an argument and show how these things work on a systemic level through a game in a way you can't with any other art form. So I'll just see more of that.
No, I agree with you on that. We had that discussion before where we talked about it, that there shouldn't be any subject that's off limits to a game, really, because you can have it in a movie, you can have it in a book, you have a poem, you can have it in whatever else. So why can't you have it in a game? Whatever the situation might be. And the fact that it is in a game gives it more avenues to be more of a deep impact to the player, because they're actually an active participant rather than someone who's sitting back and just reading about it or just watching about it, just listening about it, depending on however they're absorbing it. They can get more hands-on with the subject that's being discussed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah
they can touch and feel that part of history, to a degree. They can be involved in it and make a better connection with it, a more tactile connection with it, because you're touching the board and the pieces and things like that, and you feel more of a sense of engagement, I think, that way when you're using that medium, which is board game is just another medium of telling a story. But like Tom was saying earlier, you have to go in with a story, a thesis. You've got to have that ahead of time and present something one way or the other. You have to present something, whether it's something you want the gamer to think of, or you want the gamer to argue about. Say, no, you're wrong. But you know what? You're engaged, you're thinking. And that's a great thing.
No, I agree with you.
We got a question from Robert. What period era battle has always fascinated you, but you have not yet designed or published a game covering it? What is your Grail game design?
So the two things I keep threatening to do and haven't done yet is Jenkins' Ear and the Barbary Wars. I will get to them eventually. They're on the list. Haven't quite done them yet.
Barbary dinosaurs.
No, not Barbary dinosaurs. That.
Of course, he was going to say it.
I know Gary's laughing over there. She's got to be happy with that idea.
He's right, though. How many people have covered Barbary? Like, none?
None.
Can you think of any?
There's one game that just came out on Kickstarter on the Barbary Wars.
Yeah.
I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah. Fort Circle. Yeah.
But that one hasn't fully actually released just yet.
No,
it's good, though. I played it at San Diego, and it was a really, really good game. Scarring Party. Tom, given how prolific you are, how many designs are you typically working on at any one time?
I don't know, 6 to 12, I guess. They're in different stages of development too, because my research period, especially for historical games, that's kind of ongoing in the background while I'm actively working on other things, right? And so I might be reading books to get myself immersed in a period, so that I might design a game on that period later. So if I go into research thinking, okay, I want to do a game on this, so I'm going to read about this, my brain tends to want to try to find the mechanics while I'm doing it, and that's not conducive to being open to what the history is telling me, and to forming a thesis that I then can design in mind with.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm doing that for some games, and then I'm doing testing on some games, and I'm kind of trying to get ideas together for some games. Some games are later, so yeah, 6 to 12 probably. And I switch on and off. So I run into a wall with this one. Well, I'll go over here for a while. And when I run into a wall on that, then I'll move back over and go to something else.
No, I get that. I actually do something kind of similar in the way that I film, because I don't know if people would prefer it, but I don't film just one game at a time. I'll usually have 2 or 3 that I'm going at one time, and it kind of gives me variety, so I don't feel like I'm getting monotonous with just one thing, because war games are a little longer, so if you're filming it, it could take you a couple of weeks to film it versus a couple of days just sitting there playing it. So by having a few going at once, I don't get that bogged down feeling I'll have this war game over here and then this miniatures game over here, and then just do one video for each one, just bouncing back and forth between them. A little bit different than designing them, obviously, but I understand the premise behind what you're talking about.
Patrick Picture says, so Jenkins Ear just in the Caribbean or also Georgia and Florida?
I mean, I'm really not sure at this point. I'm interested in the subject, and I mean, it's kind of a thing where I don't want to say I started wanting to do it as a joke, but it was like, no one's going to do a game on Jenkins Ear, so I'll do that. And so I have not dug into it deeply enough to do a game on it yet. And once I do that, then I'll be able to determine, what the parameters are for that game. Just like, any game, I'm going to define the parameters after, I have my thesis, right? So
yeah.
You're making me kind of feel ignorant when it comes to history. I thought I knew so much, but I know so little about the periods that you cover. I got to ask, Jenkins Ear, what is this?
So this is a war between the British and the Spanish that got folded into one of the wars of succession. I don't remember which one. There were 3 or 4 successive wars of succession in a pretty short period of time. The why it's called Jenkins Ear is supposedly the casus belli was this guy named Jenkins, and the Spanish cut his ear off, and then they went into Parliament years later holding the ear, and it's like, they cut off his ear, we have to go to war, and really. The reasons for the war are more complicated than that, and more about kind of real politic balance of power stuff. But that was something to, pin it on.
Rallying cry, yeah.
Yeah. And so years afterwards, it was referred to as the War of Jenkins Ear. I don't think it was ever called that during the time, just like there was a period of time, this period of civil war in England in the 1100s, which is called the Anarchy. It was never called the Anarchy back then. It was called the Anarchy in the 1800s, and they said, we're going to put a name on this period.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just how people choose to remember Jenkins Ear. Which I might get to that eventually. I've done some obscure stuff. Last year's holiday game was the Toledo War, which was a war between Michigan and Ohio. And Ohio won, and for some reason got Toledo for that. So
no kid.
And it wasn't in a bowl game either.
No. I mean, the only casualty was a sheriff was stabbed and survived, but it was the only bloodshed during the whole thing. But we did a little CDG game about that. And then this year for the holiday game, we're doing a CDG about the Quasi-War between the U.S. and France during the Adams presidency. It was kind of through the context of one player is Adams and one player is this guy called Alexander Hamilton that people may have heard of, and it's their conflict.
Vaguely familiar.
during the war.
Yeah, trust me, I've heard so much about Hamilton. She goes around the house singing the damn songs. It drives me nuts.
They're very catchy.
Gosh, she loves it, hands down. Everywhere we ride in the car, she's got the album playing. So I got the part where they're like singing his name, Alexander Hamilton. I'm like, oh, just shut up. Don't. I understand she loves it. I can't stand musicals. It is not my forte.
And I'm a big fan of musicals, but I'm a big fan of like Gold Diggers of 1933, old black and white musicals. They're fun and they're sassy and very funny, and that's my kind of musical. I'm not so big on like, Sound of Music or whatever. West Side Story. I really like the 1930s Busby Berkeley kind of complicated, crazy dance numbers and stuff.
Well, that's one of the other things I was going to, touch on is your movie background and your love of movies, because you have a very unique sense, a taste in movies, like you were just talking about there, a little bit different musical than what everybody, when you hear musical, think, like you said, Hello Dolly, Sound of Music, things like that. Talk a little bit about your background in movies and what work you've done in the past and any work you're still doing in it.
Sure. So I've always had a great deal of interest in movies, and in fact, when Mary and I first met, what we first bonded over, and our very first conversation was about was movies, and I love all sorts of movies, but I have a pretty deep appreciation, I think, for movies of the 30s and 40s and 50s, 70s also. That's a great decade.
Now the 30s and 40s, though, that wasn't as much movies as just the what they call it, the picture show, because they didn't have soundtrack, right?
No. 30s and 40s, you had sound films. I want to say The Jazz Singer, which was the first like popular film with sound, was very early 30s or 27 or 28. So was in the 20s. I mean, you still had feature films then, but in the 20s. But they developed more as time went on. By the time you get to the 30s, you get, I mean, that's really what the whole musical boom was in the 30s, was we have sounds, we're going to put some singing and dancing in these pictures, rather than, just a pantomime.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you had the great Astaire and Rogers musicals, you had the Busby Berkeley stuff, you have the great gangster films like
Cagney,
yeah, like Public Enemy and White Heat.
Yeah,
you have
Angels with Dirty Faces.
Yeah, you have Scarface, Little Caesar, and a lot of those up to 34, 35. I could have the year wrong. That was before the code, so they could do some pretty salacious stuff, and there's some pretty salacious stuff in some of those 30s musicals. That's also why I like them. And
what code? You mean like the rating system?
So it wasn't the formal rating system yet. They actually had a code as to what you could have in films and what you couldn't, what kind of behavior could be in films, what could be alluded to.
That's when they started putting the foot on the floor when they were laying on the bed, those sort of things, right?
Yeah. And so
they'd be blown away by what's on TV nowadays.
Yeah. I mean, you'd have stuff like for example, that you could never show. Crime always had to pay, and you couldn't show two people in the same bed and all this stuff, which was kind of puritanical. There was some there's some great stuff in the 30s, even after the code comes in, of course, because you got to get more creative at that point. You have to be a little classier about stuff.
So the code was actually like rules, like specific rules, not just like understood.
No, there are rules. There are people actually censoring the stuff, and demanding you have to make this cut and that cut, and it. I should be better read on this, but I mean, some of it was pretty weird and crazy, and essentially, the office, I want to say it was the Hayes office.
Hayes Code.
The
Dan
Hayes,
River Rick said it, yeah. So
Yes.
it was in effect in 1968.
Yeah, and Hayes, he wasn't necessarily the right person to be making those choices. As far as what he thought was acceptable and wasn't acceptable in films and that. So I don't know. It was interested in like early 30s film. Gold Digger's 33 is a great film. Any Ernst Lubitsch films. Those are very saucy romantic comedies that are very eyebrow raising even today. Worth checking out.
That's pretty cool. Now, as far as working on movies, what have you done in the past? Are you still working on any movies now?
So Mary and I made 3 films together, 3 comedies. They didn't really get much traction. We didn't get into festivals. Whether that's because of the production quality or it's our inability to make the connections. Because the thing with film, more so than board games, is that it's very vicious. And there are lots of little groups that you want to get in with. And if you don't get in with them, you have trouble getting that traction, especially in the independent film world.
Yeah, very cliquish.
Yeah, exactly. And so we never really got much. We did make some friends there, but we never really got much traction there. And then the board games kind of took off. Well, we plan to get back to making films again someday. Probably just films that are going to entertain us, because Lord knows no one else has our sense of humor. So
now, when you say you guys are making the films, are you starring in the films, or are you like producing and executing and that kind of stuff?
I did act in some of them. I'm not a very good actor, which we wrote for my very limited range, but we wrote them, we produced them, directed them together, did all the casting, did all the catering, did all the lighting, did all the camera work, did all the editing. We basically were a 2-person team with that. And then we had our actors we worked with.
You don't need a big team to turn out greatness. Look at The Evil Dead. Awesome movie. Small production crew and now all that stuff. I love The Evil Dead.
Yeah. So
I don't know if that's your type of thing, if you've seen that, but love The Evil Dead.
I've seen The Evil Dead. I've seen Evil Dead 1 and 2, and 2 is better than 1. And I've seen Army of Darkness.
Army of Darkness.
Too.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
Shop smart. Shop smart.
Yeah, buddy.
We did more slice of life comedy stuff. And to give you an example, the one I come back to is the last film that we did. We had the opening scene of the film. It is 25 minutes long before the credits. It is a phone conversation about a utility bill, which we thought was hilarious. It has no bearing on the rest of the film. And that was our sense of humor. And boy, did festival, people determine whether or not it gets in the festival. They didn't care for that. No, I'm happy about making the films because, we made friends that way. Mary and I enjoyed doing it together. Would enjoy doing it together again, I think. And we kind of did what we wanted to do, how we wanted to do, which is how we do Hollandspiele, right?
But isn't that type of filming the way kind of like Paranormal Activity, right? Wasn't it filmed kind of like that, like a small group of people who just did it on their own and it just turned out to be really good and took off?
Yeah, I think so. I think one thing there is that you're going to have an easier time getting traction with that as a horror film because there are different expectations than for a comedy generally. So I think if we were working in horror as a genre, I think we probably, we at least would have gotten like a video release out of it, right?
Yeah.
Because there's always people wanting to put those out there,
or out to streaming.
Yeah,
nowadays, because now streaming services, there's it used to be straight to DVD, straight to VHS, then DVD, and now there's a lot of that'll just go to like Fangoria or something like that. They'll have it on their streaming, services, things like that. But with just like with Kickstarter, You have the means for anybody that has an idea to come up with a game and get some backing for it. There's film projects that are doing the same thing on Kickstarter as well, and I think that's easier now with the better technology. The editing software is more affordable. Anybody that has a desire could attempt to do it. Now, how well you do it obviously comes down to skill. And things like that, and like you said, connections, because it's very cliquish. But would it be something you'd actually really want to pursue, or just something that hey, we'll get to it when we get to it?
I mean, we talked about it from time to time, and it's something we enjoy doing. Would like to do again. I don't know if we would do a Kickstarter, because I don't know how well we would do kickstarting something. I will say, like, the 3 films we did, like I said, they were slice of life comedies. Like, we shot them all first in our apartment and then in our house, and it's everyday people having everyday arguments and being silly in everyday ways. And we probably want to do something a bit more cinematic, or a bit more kind of genre work. I think we both love science fiction. We both love visually stunning films, and like to do that. But how do you do that on a small budget? Like, the biggest budget we had, no joke, was $500.
Wow.
So I mean, that is pennies. I mean, it's not it's 50,000 pennies, but it's pennies compared to any other budget. So
you have to go shoot up in Canada to make it cheap. You might get better value for that $500 in Canada.
But basically, we're doing, like, what can we do this, because we didn't have a lot of money. Same thing when we got into board games. I mean, we were living paycheck to paycheck, and we didn't have the money to risk, on a film that might not turn out right, or a board game that might not turn out right. There are people who, especially before Kickstarter, were putting themselves in debt, $20,000-$30,000. Well, for every Kevin Smith where that worked, there were people where it didn't, and we weren't willing to risk that with our financial situation. So,
I would definitely think that wargaming, or gaming in general, would be a lot easier to get involved with than Hollywood. So many try to make it big or break into Hollywood. You're competing against the masses. Hell, that was part of the reason I started the YouTube channel that I did. Wargaming is small. I'd rather be a big fish in the small pond than an 8 fish in no pond. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. And that's pretty much our thing. Is we like the size of the pond, and we like our little place off to the side of the pond, as it were, where we can do our little thing.
Well, I've never heard anyone speak bad about you guys.
No.
Like, anytime anyone ever mentions Hollandspiele, it's not mentioned in, like, reverence, like it's all, but it's always like, oh, they're nice people, they do good stuff. Just that wholesome, I guess, is the word I'm looking for. You know what I mean?
We try. We try to be nice people, and we take pride in the work that we do, and we try to be pretty clear that what we do isn't for everybody. And most people seem to, we have very few complaints, and the complaints we get is stuff like, why does this have a paper board for infamous traffic? And it's really just more an expectation thing. It's a different expectation than what.
Why didn't you stop me from buying 4X? I tried.
Oh, I did.
It's on the box.
It's on the box. Yeah.
Do you really have it on the box? It says you may not like this.
Oh yeah. Hang on. I can.
Oh, he's gonna prove this.
Oh yeah, no, I remember him talking about it when on the podcast when it was coming out. They were talking about it, saying, "Don't buy this game. It's not for you. You need to be a specific, looking for a specific type of game. Have a specific mindset."
The back of the box is a letter from us to the customer that starts with, "Why on earth did you buy this game?" and I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's a very long letter, but it's basically saying, the people are going to wonder why they let you pick the game tonight, why they invited you to game night, or why they married you. It's It's not. We try very clear. This is for a very small niche audience, and you're probably not part of it. And then a lot of people thought they were part of it, and they bought it, and they were very upset that it wasn't what they wanted it to be. And sometimes I can't even look at this game. Right?
Is that one of your designs?
This is one of my designs. Yeah. This is a design I did before Hollandspiele, years before. Like I couldn't get a publisher for it. We pitched it to some 18xx publishers, and they're like, "That is too nerdy." so I was like,
"That is so bad."
Need to take it to like Harvard Business School or something like that, and license it up there. You know, they'll use it in class.
And it's all about foreign currency exchange. That's the premise of the game.
Yeah. So there are, I want to say, 7 currencies in the game, and they all have value relative to the other currencies. So there's no absolute value, and as you invest in one currency, it changes its relationship to the other currencies. And in the end, one of the currencies is going to be stronger than the others based on player actions, and the strongest currency, everything's converted to that, and the person with the most money wins. It's also it's about futures contracts, essentially, and you're making trades like, okay, right now it's worth this one of this currency is worth 1.5 of that currency, so I'm going to trade 3 of these for 1.5 times 3, whatever it is. And I'm going to do that at a later date. And at that date, you're hoping that the currency values have changed so that you have made more money from it than you would have. So it's all about money being not real, essentially. Yeah. And a lot of hardcore economics players, I think, wanted it to be more like other economics games. I mean, really, it's modeling on a systemic level the fact that there's no inherent stability to any economy. It's all smoke and mirrors, right?
Yeah, and no gold-backed dollar anymore.
Yeah, so there's a custodial aspect to it because the players through their actions can make the market very brittle or very rich. And if everyone acts completely in naked self-interest, they're going to tank everything.
Yeah.
And a lot of economics gamers prefer to act completely in naked. I don't give anyone any kind of advantage. I just want an advantage for myself. Well, if you do that, you're not going to win this game.
Yeah.
Because you actually have to have a healthy marketplace in order to do things.
Yeah, they don't understand future speculation. You know, and that's that. My dad worked in a commodity exchange, so I'm familiar with, you know, the whole futures. Obviously, that was all with commodities, you know, pork roll, and not pork roll, but pork bellies and orange juice, coffee, sugar, all that kind of stuff. And kind of the same idea, obviously, but not currency. And you're just basically betting on vapor. We know it's coming in. We know it's going to be here in 18 months or 6 months or whatever. And I'm going to bet that, you know, the orange juice is going to be at 250 or whatever at that time, you know. And like you said, you have to make the opponent more strong for you to gain something. And that's, you know, it's also kind of neat in a way because you're kind of hiding. You can almost hide in plain sight your intention by helping boost someone else to make a, you know, benefit to yourself. But yeah, it's not something I would necessarily go and buy. It wouldn't be something. I mean, I'm not saying I wouldn't play it, but I mean, out of curiosity, I would say, yeah, I'll give it a shot. You know, we're at a con together or something. I'm like, yeah, let's sit down and play it. And I can tell pretty quick. I'm like, yeah, this is probably not for me or whatever. But and the odds are it probably wouldn't be. But I'm not going to say no, you know, and say no. You know, I'm not going to turn it away because I'm always curious to see different designs and how people model different things because that's a pretty fascinating subject, though. You know, in the real world.
What's the minimum player for that one? Because there's no way that's like 6. A solitaire 2-player game.
So this is the old box. I think it's 2 to 5 or 2 to 6. But you know, really, in retrospect, if we proposing it now, we would say 3 to 5 or 3 to 6, whatever it is, and not 2. It can be played for 2, but it's not as good at 2. And I think today, we wouldn't put 2 on the box like we did then. And I would say, we'd rather sell fewer copies of something and have everyone who buys it love it than sell more copies with people, who it's not for them. That's why we try to be very careful to match the game to the player.
Yeah, rather have a smaller amount of good reviews than a larger amount of mediocre reviews.
Yeah, and we just really want happy. We want happy customers, because happy customers are repeat customers, and that makes it sustainable for us, as our full-time living.
I just think that's hilarious to have on the game. This game is not for you. This game is too nerdy for you. Go ahead and put it down. If that doesn't scare you away, keep reading.
Well, somebody said, I think it was Downriver Rick. He said they took it as a challenge when they read that.
Yeah, I think that was the problem. They either thought we weren't serious or thought, I'll be one of the people it's for.
Yeah,
and so it goes.
Joe says he's been playing Escape from Hades a lot during this lockdown. He's really digging it. It's like playing a movie. It's well produced. Thank you.
Well, thank you. We're really happy to publish that. Like I said, we're both big sci-fi fans, so doing a sci-fi game was kind of on our list to do.
Patchwork says, are there a lot of economic games in the Hollandspiele lineup, and did your frustration with 4X deter you from putting out other economic game designs?
So the other economic game we've done since 4X is Sioux Line, which is a train game about Michigan's Upper Peninsula. And we actually have another train game coming out at the end of this year. It's called Dual Gauge, and it's going to have at least 2 maps to start with, and then we'll release map packs going on. So it's going to be a series of train and stock games. So you have speculation and stock and trains and whatnot. There are other economics games I'm kind of toying with, mostly in that kind of stock market speculation mode. I'm actually working on, this is interesting, I'm working on a game about the Council of Nicaea as a kind of stock game about theological belief, about trying to take basically the bet on what's going to be orthodoxy and what's going to be heterodox. So that probably won't be until next year. But we have some other economics games in mind. We're trying to make sure none of them are quite as weird as 4X, because that was kind of a shock to us, just the hostile reaction to it.
Well, you need to make another one, a 2-player train game called Dual Hex, like you were calling it that one, but spelled DUEL, and have it be training, like a dueling train game. You could come up with something, I'm sure, for that.
I'll see what I can come up with. Yeah,
with dinosaurs in it.
with dinosaurs in it. Well, yeah, that
dueling dinosaur gauge. Well, I think that's all the questions we have, and we don't want to keep you all night time. We really appreciate you taking the time and coming to visit with us tonight, and answering all the questions on what to expect from Hollandspiele. And anybody who's not played any Hollandspiele games, definitely, I strongly recommend going and checking their games out. Any of the games that I show on the channel, I always speak very highly of them, and I do that for a reason. It's not for any type of monetary gain. It's just, I know Tom and Mary, they're 2 great people. They make great games, and they put a lot of love and effort into their games, and the production quality is fantastic. The fun there is off the charts, and totally worth your dollar to go support them and get a whole bunch of different games. They got solitaire games. They got games up to 6 players only in some cases. And definitely give them a shot if you've not already played any of their games.
Thank you, guys. It was fun talking to you.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And where can they find you guys on social media?
We have a Twitter account, which is @Hollandspiele. And that's basically our company account. Mary does most of the tweeting there. There's also @Tom and Mary, which is our personal account. We're on Board Game Geek. We're on the Facebook, Ms. Hollandspiele, on Constant World. Those are all places where you can find us.
Well, Brian says, thanks so much, guys. He's never tried the publisher. Try this publisher out, and tonight turned me on to it. So
great.
Welcome to a wide catalog of a lot of great fun, Brian. I think you're going to really have a lot of enjoyment from all the different games you can play with them. Hey, Nate, thanks for coming in tonight. Appreciate it. Where can everybody find you on social media?
Facebook and YouTube. I don't do Twitter because I don't like Twitter. Twitter's bad.
You got to come out on Twitter, man. It's fun. All the war gamers. Just ignore all the other stuff.
No, man. Twitter's just not my cup of tea. No Instagram. None of that crap. The Gimpy's gal does have her Facebook page as well, so you can message us there if you want. And we will be putting out more of our little quarantine diaries as well that we've been doing, our little chats to try to get extra content out there for people since everybody's kind of cooped up in their homes. Nice. Don't know what our next topic's going to be, but it might be some of the haunting stuff we've had.
That'd be cool.
So might be covering some of that again.
Nice, that'd be fun. I always dig that sort of stuff. So it's nice and interesting. But maybe we'll see if we can get another show in here in the next week or two. You know, we're trying to do a little bit more than normal because of all this lock-in stuff that everyone's kind of stuck in, and try to get some more content out there for people to enjoy and pass the time by, and just have a little bit of fun and introduce you to different publishers and different games you may not have known before, like Brian found tonight. But I appreciate all you guys for tuning in tonight, and look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good night.
Bye, guys.